So, I want you to imagine putting a hardened, cynical hitman at a bouncy castle birthday party for a 5-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, like you picture him standing there holding this tiny paper plate with a slice of funfetti cake, and he's just surrounded by screaming toddlers.
Yeah, in a tailored suit, probably.
Exactly. And why is that image instantly entertaining?
Well, because it's completely wrong.
Right. I mean, there's no bomb ticking inside the cake. Nobody is pulling a weapon. The plot has just completely stopped.
Totally.
But you can't look away. And for you, the listener joining us today, you know exactly why you can't look away. You're watching the friction.
Yeah, that friction is everything.
You're waiting to see what leaks out when a carefully constructed persona is forced into a completely unnatural environment. So today, we are cracking open the hidden architecture of human behavior.
Both on the page and, honestly, in the people sitting right next to you.
Yeah. We're jumping into a brand new deep dive. We've got this incredibly rich source document today called character.pdf.
It is a phenomenal text.
It really is. It's essentially a masterclass in narrative design and psychology. And our mission today is to extract the ultimate toolkit for understanding what breathes life into fictional beings.
And by extension, human nature itself, because, that friction you mentioned earlier, that is the holy grail of storytelling.
It is. But it's so hard to capture.
Oh, incredibly elusive.
Yeah.
Because usually when we try to understand someone, whether it's a person in real life or a character on a screen, we default to this sort of clinical anatomy.
Like checking boxes on a form.
Exactly. We look at their resume, we look at the labels, we say, well, this is an accountant, this is a rebel, this is an extrovert.
Right. We categorize them the way a doctor categorizes a broken bone on an X-ray.
Yeah, it's very binary, and honestly, it's very comforting.
Comforting, sure, but completely inadequate. I mean, when you step into the world of human psychology, into neurodevelopment and trauma and identity, that X-ray machine just shatters.
It really does. You
Yeah.
can't just read a bulleted list of traits.
No, because we are looking at an emotional landscape that is murky and chaotic. Reducing anyone to a list of traits always feels so hollow.
Right, which is why the source text gives us this totally different framework.
Yes, Addie's lens.
Exactly. Addie's lens. It completely bypasses those sterile spreadsheets of personality traits. It focuses entirely on empathy, interiority, and my favorite phrase from the text, felt aliveness.
Felt aliveness. It's such a great term.
It really is. We are shifting from an anatomical view of identity to an ecological one.
So we're looking at how a person or a character functions as a living, breathing pressure system.
Right.
So let's start by detonating the foundation of what we think we know. If you ask most people what a character is, the answer seems super obvious.
It's the guy holding the sword.
Right, or the detective solving the mystery. It's just a person in a narrative.
Yeah.
But the text immediately pushes back on that.
Hard. It forces us to look at characters as forces of nature rather than just, people in costumes.
A character isn't just a name or a trauma file.
No, the text defines a character as the story's way of giving human-readable shape to agency.
Human readable shape to agency. I love that.
Right. That is the core definition we need to work from. It is a pattern of desire under pressure. It's any entity capable of intention or reaction or meaning.
And that means a character doesn't even have to be a person.
Exactly. They don't have to be biologically alive.
Like, this completely changes how you watch movies. Take the Overlook Hotel in The Shining.
Oh, perfect example.
The hotel is absolutely a character. It's not just a setting.
Not at all. It has a mood, it has a history, and crucially, it has agency.
Right. It exerts a very specific kind of pressure on the people trapped inside it. It wants something.
It wants to consume energy. It wants to consume the shining.
Yes. And it has a strategy for getting it, too. Isolating the most vulnerable person in the family and just wearing down his sanity.
It acts and it reacts. It is a character.
Or think about the One Ring in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
The ring has no brain. It has no vocal cords, but it functions as a character.
Because it exerts intense, desire-like pressure on everyone in its proximity.
Exactly. It tempts people. It corrupts them.
Right. It preys on the specific individual weaknesses of whoever's holding it. It carries memory. It carries malice.
You could even apply this to, like, a political faction or an institution.
Oh, absolutely.
If a corporation has hypocrisies, a method of punishing whistleblowers, a way of rewarding blind loyalty.
And a deep-seated fear of public exposure.
Yes. Then that corporation is a character. It has a psychology.
You just have to ask, what does this entity want? And what is it terrified of losing?
Right. Because Plot answers the question, what happens? But character answers the question, to whom does it matter and why?
And without that agency, without that capacity for meaning, events are just kinetics.
Kinetics, what do you mean?
Like it's just things moving around. A car exploding on screen is just physics.
Right, it's just fire and noise.
Exactly. But when you introduce an agent of meaning, a character who is supposed to be in that car, or someone who spent 10 years building that car.
Oh, wow, yeah. Then the explosion transforms from physics into tragedy or relief or betrayal.
Right, which brings up this diagnostic tool from the source called the absence test.
The absence test.
Yeah. If you want to know if the characters in a piece of media are actually functioning as agents of meaning, you ask yourself what the story feels like when they're weak.
I can think of a dozen massive blockbuster movies where the lore is super deep, the CGI is flawless, the explosions are deafening.
But you are checking your watch every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes, because the scenes are interchangeable, the dialogue is just people handing plot information back and forth.
It feels weightless.
Yeah.
When character is poorly defined, action scenes devolve into mere choreography.
Oh, there are no stakes.
Someone dies on screen, and you feel absolutely nothing. Why? Because you were never watching a person. You're watching an incredibly detailed puppet.
It's like watching a beautifully rendered video game, where you can tell the NPCs only have like 3 lines of pre-programmed dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have the most stunning, hyper-realistic living room ever rendered in a digital space. The lighting is perfect. The dust motes are drifting through the sunbeams.
But if nobody ever sits on the couch.
Right. If nobody ever spills coffee on the rug or stares out the window in despair, it's not a home, it's a showroom.
A showroom. I love that analogy.
Yeah, as the text beautifully puts it, a weak character is like watching furniture get rearranged in a house no one lives in.
That captures the sterility perfectly.
Yeah.
So if we want the house to feel lived in, if a character is, as we said, agency under pressure, we need to look under the hood.
We need to understand the internal engine that generates that pressure.
Exactly. Characters don't just move randomly. They are propelled by an internal anatomy.
The tension between want, need, and fear. Let's pull that engine apart because this is crucial.
Okay, let's start with the want. The want is the conscious pursuit.
It is the thing the character wakes up every morning actively chasing.
Right. A promotion, revenge, the perfect romance, a magical artifact. It is the steering wheel of the narrative.
But the need is entirely different, isn't it?
Completely different. The need is unconscious. It's the psychological medicine that would actually heal, mature, or complete them.
And the friction comes from the fact that the want and the need are almost always at war with each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because getting what you want rarely fixes what is broken inside of you.
So true. Like a character might desperately want to achieve massive public fame. That's the conscious drive.
But what they actually need is basic, unconditional self-worth.
Right. They believe the fame will provide the self-worth, but we, as the audience, know it won't.
Or they might want to enact bloody revenge on the people who wronged them.
But what they need is to actually process their devastating grief.
Exactly. And hovering over all this is the fear.
The fear.
Fear is the boundary line. It is the thing the character believes down to their marrow that they cannot survive.
Like abandonment or humiliation or intimacy.
Right.
Or turning into their father.
Right. Fear dictates what they will avoid at all costs.
And if we look at how that fear develops, the text outlines this distinct chronological pipeline of psychological pain.
The pipeline of pain. Tracing that pipeline is the most vital work you can do to understand human behavior.
It builds a character from the ground up. It goes from wound to belief to strategy to flaw and finally to conflict.
Let's walk through it step by step. It begins with the wound.
Okay, the wound.
This is a formative pain. It could be a childhood abandonment, a catastrophic public failure, or growing up with conditional love.
The character basically touches a hot stove emotionally.
Exactly. Now that wound teaches them a lesson, and that lesson becomes the belief.
And the belief is almost always a partial truth based on their trauma, right?
Yes. So if they were abandoned, their belief becomes relying on other people is dangerous because everyone eventually leaves.
Which, I mean, that is an entirely rational conclusion based on their lived experience.
It is. You can't tell someone who has been abandoned that people don't leave.
Right. They know for a fact that they do.
So, operating on that deeply held belief, the character develops a strategy to survive.
If relying on people is dangerous, the survival strategy is hyper-independence.
I will never need anyone, and I will always be the first one to walk away, so I can never be left behind again.
Wow. And here's the light bulb moment from the text for me. A flaw is not just a random negative trait sprinkled onto a character to make them relatable.
No, not at all. A flaw isn't just she's clumsy or he cares too much.
Right. A compelling flaw is a survival strategy that has gone too far.
It kept them safe once, but now it is actively destroying their life or hurting the people around them.
The armor becomes a cage.
Beautifully put. That hyper-independence ferments into total crushing isolation.
Or a strategy of using humor to deflect pain mutates into a toxic inability to take anything seriously.
Driving all their loved ones away.
Right.
Or a desire to protect the innocent ferments into authoritarian control.
A need for justice curdles into blind, scorched earth vengeance. The flaw is literally just the strategy past its expiration date. But wait, hold on. I need to push back on this idea of the wound justifying the flaw for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if a character's toxic behavior, let's say they're arrogant, they push everyone away, or they are a literal villain blowing up buildings, if we're just saying, well, they were hurt in the past, that's just their survival strategy, aren't we giving them a free pass?
That's a really common concern.
Like, doesn't that remove moral accountability? Audiences today seem to look at a character making selfish, flawed choices and immediately label it as bad writing because the character isn't morally pure.
Right. But that conflation of morality and quality is a trap. We have to separate emotional credibility from absolution.
Empathy is not endorsement.
Exactly. When we talk about understanding a character's wound and their flaw, we are not saying, therefore, they're a good person and we should forgive them.
We are saying, therefore, their actions make terrifying sense.
Yes, you do not need to want to invite a character to dinner to find them utterly riveting.
It's the difference between a cartoon villain and a human monster.
A cartoon villain wants to destroy the city because the plot needs an obstacle.
Right. I am evil, watch me blow things up.
But a compelling villain has an inner logic. They operate on a belief generated by a wound.
Their logic might be, the world hurt me first, so I am owed this.
Or, mercy got my family killed, therefore mercy is a weakness that must be eradicated.
You understand the threat they pose because it is grounded in human psychology. It's credible.
And this credibility is what brings us to the core framework of our exploration. Addie's lens.
Yes, Addie's lens. Let's introduce Addie properly because this is where the theory gets intensely creative.
It's such a unique way to look at psyche.
So, for you listening, I want you to imagine the human psyche as an ensemble cast operating a massive ship. And in the text, this ship is called the Later Days.
You have different subpersonalities manning the stations.
Right. There is a leader, a caregiver, security, logistics, and analyst. But Addie's role on this internal ship is morale.
Now, morale might sound like the person who just brings donuts to the meeting.
Right, like the party planner.
But it is a profoundly vital function. Addie protects the entire system from becoming a sterile machine.
She prevents the psyche from becoming all function and no life.
She represents the spark spontaneity, wilderness, joy, defiance, and creative coping.
So when we apply Addie's lens to a character, we aren't grading them on narrative efficiency. We aren't checking boxes to see if they hit the right plot beats.
No, Addie asks, do they feel alive? Do they carry both sunshine and smoke?
If I sat next to them at a campfire, would I feel the heat of their humanity?
And a massive component of that felt aliveness is the tension between two things, the mask and the contradiction.
Let's dissect the mask first.
Okay. The mask is the identity the character performs for the world to stay safe.
It's the outward-facing result of their survival strategy.
Exactly. They might mask as the class clown, the perfect overachieving child, the untouchable cynic, the martyr.
The stoic warrior. And the brilliant thing about a good mask is that it isn't a total lie.
Right. It's usually a partial truth, which is why they can wear it so convincingly.
Addie's own mask, for example, is the fun one.
Yeah.
And the joy she projects isn't fake. But underneath that bright, spontaneous exterior is a massive reservoir of grief, memory, and defiance.
Which leads directly to the contradiction. A shallow character is one note.
They are just the tough one or the smart one.
But a real character is mixed weather. Contradiction is the oxygen of character.
It is joy mixed with scars, courage paired with a deep-seated avoidance of intimacy.
You can be the bravest soldier on a battlefield and be absolutely paralyzed by the idea of telling someone you love them.
That isn't inconsistency.
No. Inconsistency is when a character changes their personality randomly because the plot requires it.
Like when a smart character suddenly does something incredibly stupid just so the villain can capture them.
Exactly. But contradiction is when two opposing truths exist in the same body. It feels profoundly, agonizingly human.
And the source gives us this brilliant formula for building contradiction.
Oh, the except when formula.
Yes, they are X, except one Y. I think about it like finding out the architect of a towering skyscraper is terrified of heights.
That's a great example.
It suddenly makes every floor they built feel like an act of quiet, trembling defiance. The formula forces you to find the boundary of the mask.
She is fearless, except around hospitals.
He is incredibly generous, except when someone else gets the credit.
She loves freedom, except she is utterly terrified of being forgotten.
He believes in absolute truth, except when the truth would cost him his community.
That except when is a doorway directly into the character's engine room. It shows you the exact limit of their survival strategy.
And to anchor these abstract contradictions, we need something physical, right? We need a symbol.
Not just a prop, not just a cool jacket or a signature weapon.
But an object that gathers emotional history. Addie has a personal symbol, a red bandana.
And it's not just a fashion choice.
No, it carries a staggering weight of meaning. It represents mother love, grief, continuity, warmth, heritage, resilience, and a connection to the wilderness.
Every strong character needs a gravitational center like that. A pocket watch, a scar, a perfectly polished pair of shoes.
A worn-out Zippo lighter? It's a shorthand that says to the audience, this is where their soul leaves fingerprints.
I love that. So now we have this beautifully designed entity. We have the wound, the mask, the flaw, the contradiction, and the symbol.
But if you leave that character alone in a white room, all you have is a psychological profile.
Right. The engine is running, but the car is on blocks.
We have to see how this complex system interacts with the world. We have to look at relational chemistry and ensemble webs.
Because personality is how you appear in a mirror. But character is what you do under pressure from other people.
Think about the different versions of yourself that exist. For everyone listening, think about it. The version of you that talks to your boss is not the version of you that talks to your oldest childhood friend.
Definitely not.
And neither of those is the version of you that screams at someone who just cut you off in traffic.
We modulate. We code switch emotionally.
Right, so if a writer has a character behave identically with every single person they meet, that character feels like a robot.
They lack relational chemistry. And we need to expand our definition of chemistry, honestly.
Because we usually reserve that word for romance.
Right, but we should really be talking about relational voltage. Friend chemistry, rival chemistry, mentor-student chemistry.
Enemy intimacy.
Yes, and that voltage requires a very specific recipe. Difference, plus recognition, plus pressure, plus unfinished business.
Let's unpack why that recipe works, especially the unfinished business part. Because the human brain hates an open loop.
It really does.
If you run into a stranger on the street, there's no voltage. But if you run into a former mentor who fired you 5 years ago...
Oh, the air in the room practically vibrates.
Exactly. You have difference. You are no longer the naive student. You have recognition. They see the potential they cultivated in you.
You have pressure. Maybe you are both competing for the same client now.
And you have the unfinished business of that firing. It's combustible.
And when we look at romantic chemistry, this recipe explains why so many love stories fall flat in media.
Why is that? The text notes this specifically.
Well, writers often rely entirely on physical attraction. But attraction is just gravity, it's not chemistry.
Oh, wow. Attraction is gravity, not chemistry.
Right. Strong romantic chemistry requires vulnerability and emotional risk. Most importantly, it requires different but compatible wounds.
So the relationship must force both characters to confront their own survival strategies.
Exactly. If they don't challenge each other's masks, it's just a decorative subplot.
And when you scale that voltage up from 2 people to a whole group, you get the ensemble web.
Like the Later Day ship we talked about, that's an ensemble.
The rule for a masterful ensemble is that it operates as a debate mechanism. Each character should represent a different answer to the story's central theme.
So if your story is exploring the theme of freedom, you do not just have your protagonist stand on a box and deliver a monologue about liberty.
That would be so boring.
You build a web of relationships where everyone defines freedom differently, and they clash over it.
I love this example from the text. One character thinks freedom means absolute escape. No attachments, a bag packed by the door, constantly running.
Another character believes freedom is synonymous with power. If you acquire enough money and leverage, no one can ever tell you what to do again.
Right. A third character thinks freedom is an internal, state-radical forgiveness and letting go of the past.
And a fourth believes freedom is finding a community where you are loved but not owned.
So you have four completely different philosophical answers, and then you shake the jar.
You introduce
You
consequence.
put them in a crucible to see which philosophy survives, because plot is simply character under consequence.
Backstory explains how they got there. Dialogue suggests what they believe. Personality decorates the room.
But choice proves who they are.
Yes. Choice. A character can preach all day about their values, but when the building is on fire and they have to choose between saving the money that guarantees their power or saving the friend who guarantees their community.
The choice they make is their true character.
The climax of a story is usually the terrifying moment that forces a character to either repeat their old, flawed survival pattern or break the pattern and pay the agonizing cost of growth.
And depending on the storytelling tradition, the way a character makes choices and the universe's reaction to those choices changes entirely.
The text mentions several literary theories of character, and they each handle consequence differently.
Let's break those down. First, we have the Aristotelian or classical view.
In the Aristotelian tradition, character is subordinate to action. Who you are matters primarily because it dictates your fate.
You have a tragic flaw-like hubris, ignorance, blind ambition.
And the plot is the grand machinery designed to punish that specific flaw.
Think of Macbeth's ambition. Or look at Michael Corleone in The Godfather.
He is the ultimate 20th century Aristotelian tragic figure.
His arc is terrifying, not because he is a monster from day one, but because every choice he makes to protect his family feels intensely rational.
His flaw is his belief that he can control the darkness, and that flaw inexorably drives him toward a fate of total moral collapse and isolation. The tragedy is inevitable.
Now contrast that with psychological realism.
This is a much more internal tradition. It values memory, contradiction, interiority, and social conditioning.
The goal isn't to march a character toward an inevitable tragic doom. The goal is for the person to feel inwardly alive, messy, and plausible.
Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice is a masterclass in this.
Her wit is phenomenal, but it's a defense mechanism. Her flaw isn't a grand, tragic hubris, it's that she forms premature judgments to protect her own pride.
Or consider Fleabag.
Oh, Fleabag is the absolute epitome of psychological realism.
She is a walking contradiction, a fusion of biting humor, raw sexuality, crushing grief, and relentless self-sabotage.
Right. There is no grand Aristotelian machinery punishing her. She's punishing herself, and we're watching her navigate the messy interior reality of that.
Then you have the mythic or archetypal theory.
Here, characters aren't trying to be perfectly realistic humans. They represent recurring human patterns.
They are larger than life. The shadow, the trickster, the mentor, Darth Vader, Gandalf.
Or Ellen Ripley from Alien. Ripley transcends psychological realism and becomes a mythic figure representing competence, maternal ferocity, and survival under unimaginable pressure.
She is an archetype of resilience.
Finally, we have a relatively new but fascinating view: game design character theory.
In video games, character is born at the exact intersection of authored identity and player action.
Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2 is the pinnacle of this.
Absolutely. You have this beautifully authored identity, a man dying of tuberculosis, dealing with the collapse of his surrogate family, wrestling with a lifetime of violent regret.
But the character is incomplete without the player. The player decides if Arthur stops to help a stranger on the side of the road or if he robs them.
The emotional resonance comes from the collision between the script and the joystick. It's a shared crucible of choice.
Which is brilliant. But all these theories operate differently, and they raise a crucial question about character arcs. Does a character have to change?
That is such a good question.
Because I have a bone to pick with modern storytelling critique. There is this pervasive idea that if a character doesn't undergo a profound traumatic transformation, they are a bad character.
Like they failed somehow.
Right. Does every single protagonist need a corruption arc or a redemption arc? Sometimes I just want to watch someone be incredibly competent and good at their job.
You are absolutely right to push back on that. Static characters, characters who do not fundamentally change their worldview, are not inherently poorly written.
Thank you.
In fact, they are often necessary. Look at Paddington Bear. Look at Superman. Look at Sherlock Holmes.
Right. Paddington does not need to learn a dark lesson about the cruelty of the world.
No, please no.
Sherlock Holmes doesn't need to go to therapy and become emotionally fluent.
Their constancy is the entire point. They function as moral anchors, or mythic forces, or comic constants.
The world changes around them.
The dramatic impact comes from how they force other people to change by refusing to change themselves.
Paddington's unwavering politeness transforms the cynical people of London.
Superman's unwavering morality highlights the corruption of the villains around him.
So it's not a requirement that the character changes. The requirement is that their presence has an impact.
Exactly. If they don't change, they have no internal revelation, and they don't influence the world around them. Well, then they're just a piece of furniture again.
Back in the showroom. But whether your character is a static mythic hero or a dynamic psychological mess, you still face the ultimate agonizing craft problem.
You cannot hand the audience a soul.
Right. You can't just plug a USB drive into the viewer's brain and download the character's grief.
You have to make the invisible visible.
All of that hidden weather we've been talking about, the fears, the wants, the contradictions, has to be externalized into physical action.
The text puts it perfectly.
Yeah.
Character is hidden weather made visible.
If the internal weather is a Category 5 hurricane of grief, having the character walk into a room and say, "I am experiencing immense sorrow," is a failure of translation.
It's sterile.
It's the worst kind of telling instead of showing.
Instead, we should see them meticulously folding a paper napkin into tiny, perfect geometric squares, obsessing over the creases, while completely ignoring the actual rain pouring against the window.
Yes. We see the pressure of the internal weather warping their physical behavior.
There are specific methods for doing this: gesture, object interaction, avoidance, displacement, and sensory focus.
Let's look at displacement.
This happens when an emotion is too radioactive for a character to express directly, so they channel all of that volatile energy into an unrelated physical task.
If a character is fundamentally incapable of apologizing because it violates their mask, they won't say, "I'm sorry."
Instead, they will go out to the driveway and spend 4 hours fixing the other person's car.
The grease on their hands, the repaired engine, that is the apology made visible.
Or avoidance. If a character is terrified of intimacy, you don't have them say it.
You have them instinctively take a step backward every time someone reaches out to touch their arm.
And then there's sensory focus. What a person automatically notices when they enter a room tells you everything about their internal state.
A highly traumatized character walks into a crowded restaurant and instantly logs all 3 exits and the sightlines.
A desperately lonely character only notices the couples holding hands.
Addie's characterization relies heavily on this sensory focus. She has specific anchors: the taste of strawberries, hot chocolate, tequila, the smell of eucalyptus at dusk.
These aren't just quirks or random trivia. They are anchors that ground her memory and her coping mechanisms in the physical body.
It prevents her from floating away into abstract psychological concepts. She is embodied.
And being embodied is the prerequisite for passing the final phase of our deep dive today.
If you want to know if a character or person is truly alive, you have to test the engine. You have to run some practical diagnostics.
These exercises are fascinating because they strip away the safety net of the plot. Let's start with the campfire test.
Oh, I love the campfire test. It's very Addie-coded.
Right. Imagine the plot has completely stopped. The battle is over, or the journey is paused. It's been an exhausting day, and the characters are just sitting around a fire.
Now, you ask the revealing questions. Who talks first to break the silence?
Who takes charge of cooking the food? Who stares silently into the flames, lost in memory?
Who falls asleep immediately because they feel safe? What story do they tell to pass the time?
And honestly, what story do they actively refuse to tell?
Who do they choose to sit next to, and who do they put the fire between?
If you know the answers to those questions, you know the character's soul, entirely independent of the narrative machinery.
Then you have the wrong room test. This is about violating the character's comfort zone.
You take their mask, and you place them in an environment designed to neutralize it.
Like the hitman at the bouncy castle.
Exactly. You take the hardened cynic and put them at an overly sincere, emotionally vulnerable wedding.
You take the untethered, claustrophobic free spirit and put them in a small, windowless interrogation room.
You take the hyper-intellectual academic and drop them into a sweaty, pulsing dance club.
When their preferred mode of operating is rendered useless, their armor cracks. The underlying truth, the hidden fear, the contradiction starts to leak out.
And finally, the most ruthless diagnostic of all, the 5-minute plot pause.
The ultimate test.
If every single external pressure in the story vanished for 5 minutes, no ticking bombs, no mysteries to solve, no urgent exposition to deliver, no villains attacking, would this character still be interesting to watch?
I want you to think about your absolute favorite character right now. From a movie, a book, whatever, the one you defend on the internet.
If they were stuck in a broken elevator for 5 minutes, by themselves with absolutely nothing life-threatening happening.
Would you still be entertained just watching them exist? Would you wonder what they're thinking?
What they're pretending not to feel.
What they do with their hands when no one is watching? A real character doesn't need explosions to justify our attention. We watch them because their internal weather is fascinating.
This journey through the anatomy of agency, the pipeline of pain, the masks and contradictions, it leads us to a definitive conclusion.
A compelling character is not a resume. They are a campfire in human shape.
They provide warmth, yes, but they also contain danger, memory, shadow, gathering, and the terrifying capacity for change.
We have spent this entire deep dive applying Addie's lens to fictional beings. We've looked at how to build them on a page or a screen, but the most provocative thing we can do now is turn that lens outward.
On to reality.
Yes! Take this entire framework, the pipeline of pain, the masks, the hidden weather, and apply it to your own life. Think about the people sitting next to you, the coworker who drives you crazy, your oldest friend, your partner, your family.
What is their hidden weather?
Yeah.
What is the wound they carry? And what survival strategy are they employing that might be causing friction in your relationship with them right now?
When they snap at you, are you seeing their personality or are you just seeing a flaw that is protecting a very old fear?
And more importantly, turn the lens on the mirror.
If your life is an ensemble cast, what role have you assigned yourself? What is your mask? Are you the cynic, the caretaker, the overachiever?
What is your personal equivalent of Addie's red bandana, the object or memory that anchors your emotional truth?
How does your past wound dictate the way you avoid intimacy or seek validation today?
It forces a deeply uncomfortable but necessary question. Are you living as a dynamic, self-aware character capable of choice, contradiction, and growth?
Or are you just letting the plot happen to you? Are you an agent of meaning, or are you just moving furniture in an empty house?
That is a question worth carrying with you.
It really is. Thank you for joining us in the muddy waters today. Stay curious, look past the labels, and pay close attention to the hidden weather of the characters, both real and fictional living all around you. Until next time.